Hello guys, Matt aka Chocolate Hammer here, and today I'll give you 6 tricks that you can use to boost yourself out of ELO hell in League of Legends. Now to tell you a bit about myself, I'm a Platinum ranked player since Season 4 peaking in Platinum 1, and while I'm not skilled enough to make it to higher peaks, I've gone through ELO hell about 8 times in the last 3 years, and I've successfully got to Platinum rank every single time I tried. So hopefully the tricks and hints I give you in this video will come in handy to you in your ranked game. Now firstly, I want to contradict what many similar videos on YouTube are saying about how attitude affects your performance in game. From my personal first-hand experience, you don't need to be an enthusiastic all-round nice fellow to win. Attitude and skill are two different things. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not promoting the thoughts to go all out on your teammates when they do something wrong. This might have a negative effect on them. What I tend to do is just stay silent when they do minor mistakes, but as I see the amount of bad plays grow, I point out to my team what they can do better next time so that it does not happen again. Some examples of this include me saying, "You're overextending, I bet you the Rengar will pop out the bush and one-shot you soon." Of course my teammate won't enjoy me calling them out on their mistakes, right? Nobody does. But thinking about the outcomes, there are only 3 possibilities that might happen. The first one is that they will listen to you and stop overextending, which while rare does happen at times, especially if your score is good in the particular game. The second one is that they will not listen to you and the mentioned Rengar will one-shot them, which might convince them to listen to you next time round, as they saw you were right this time, and I have witnessed this scenario a whole lot too much when climbing through the ELOs. The third one is also a win for you, because your teammate might not listen to you and not get one shot, in which case, sure, they might think you are mistaken calling them out on the mistake, but in the end of the day, they most likely got an objective or such while overextending, and it's ultimately those objectives that win you the game. Now don't get me wrong, this won't work 100% of the time, and I certainly encounter people in my games who continue overextending and might even cost you the game. But hey, those games happen and there is no secret that will allow you to win 100% of your games, but if you have an over 50% win rate, you should in theory climb. Now the second tip is kind of an unorthodox one, but nonetheless is a very useful skill to climbing ELO, and I heard many YouTubers talk about this one in their previous videos. You ever wondered what you should do when you're not the one doing too well? Whether it's your opponent being a smurf or you being camped 24/7? Well, one of, if not the best solution, is just simply let yourself be carried. I can't think of a game where my team was doing good and I lost. I don't always win lane, even when smurfing. After all, even in the lower elos, most people have just a couple weaknesses and might actually be very good laners who crumble in the late game, which lets them down. All you really need to do in this situation is to become the extra peel and support your carries need. In my example, I prefer to play top and jungle specifically, because tanks are just so OP right now, and they'll always be OP unless a major buff hits the carries. In the event I'm feeling my ass off, I just go full tank and search to group with my team quite early to avoid having to 1v1 or 1v2 in some games. This is just a huge plus and a good thing to remember when in this type of game, as it puts the pressure of you individually and allows your carries to carry even harder by helping them to win teamfights, and early teamfights are possibly the most important thing in the game right now. Which brings me on to the third tip of the video: lane does not matter. Ever since League became a game that is based hugely around teamwork in Season 5, lane means less and less nowadays. It got to the point where players call out Riot that players can't carry alone anymore. And you want to hear the best thing? Riot still adds features that make the game more late game teamfight focused. Rift Heralds, Elemental Dragons, plants, all that contributes to lane being less and less valuable, especially in the lower ELOs, where getting a double kill bot lane does not lead to jungle invades to set vision control and free dragons, but nothing more than a bunch of gold advantage, which eventually have no impact late game, because a 2-item Vayne can literally 1v2 bot lanes with 3 items each, given that the game went on for long enough. However, what you need to be careful of is getting demolished in lane. Whether you are 2-1 or 1-3 doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of the game. There is still a huge comeback potential, but if you are getting to the point where you are 0-4 and the enemy lane is like 3-1, you should probably refer back to my previous point where you should just accept that to gain LP that game, you should probably group up with your team and try to win team fights, or simply group up, pressure one lane while farming, and gain gold without the enemies having a chance to kill you. Now my next tip is slightly related to the other ones, and is particularly helpful for supports and mids, but can also apply to top lane and jungle, not so much AD carry. You should help your teammates, a lot. Even this season, of the few games I played, I am convinced I solo won a handful of them with a good flank on the enemy bot lane, giving my team 3 free kills to get our Vayne rolling. No pun intended. Not only was my AD carry a Vayne, one of the best champs you can get ahead, but it also granted me a nice gold lead over my opponent, who got around 10 minions top lane at a time. And it made their bot play more defensively, in turn letting my Vayne get past the lane phase unscathed. The game went into a mid lane phase and we grouped together and easily won every single team fight, as their bot was basically irrelevant. Meaning that even if one of my teammates decided to go full tilt and go 0-10, it would still be a 4v3 in essence, which would give me nice hopes of what to expect from the game. Now, the next tip is in this video because I witnessed that a lot of low elo players do it wrong. And I do it myself too, but late game rotations can single-handedly win you the game. Grouping mid-game is a very nice situation to be in, but it gets hella tilting seeing their inhib tower clear wave after wave of your minions with the help of an enemy Ziggs, while the top lane Trundle keeps biting your tower, eventually destroying them one by one. Remember that in League there are 3 lanes, and each of them gives you certain advantages. For example, did you know that the reason that many teams go mid first is because the route from the base to the mid lane is the quickest, even for minions, so the minions will knock on the mid lane door of the enemy team more often than the other lanes, making them defend more frequently. It's also the easiest one to take for the exact reasons. Contrarily, the bot lane is also associated with the Baron, as if you can take down the enemy bot lane inhibitor, you are most likely guaranteed a 5v4 at worst for the Baron, which swings the fight dramatically in your favor. What you should always take into consideration is what objectives to push at different times of the game. As you probably noticed, most teams prioritize the mid lane first, which is not a bad thing to do. But what I noticed was happening is that the teams never moved away from the mid lane after they got their objectives in that lane, until eventually the gold lead became so close that it no longer mattered, and poof, it comes down to one team fight, which is most likely not a 50-50. Instead, what you should do is aim to split push and apply pressure on the sides of the map. To put that into perspective, if you are at least semi-fed, then depending on the champion you're playing, you'll most likely be able to deal with one enemy, forcing them to commit 2 or even 3 members versus you alone. What that means is that now your team is 4v3 or maybe even 4v2, and they should easily be able to take down the enemy objectives in the lane they're in. What you should be careful of is that your team might get 5v4'd while you are away from them. Those scenarios are rather difficult, but it comes down to the intuition of the player and the thought process of whether your team can survive the enemy attack or not. If you believe in them escaping the situation, you can just do your stuff and push on to save yourself the time. But in case you don't, you might want to tell them that while you are splitting, they should take care as you anticipate the enemy attack incoming. And that brings me to my last tip. When you lose, try shrug it off. I know from first-hand experience that losing a game, especially one of those tight 50-50 teamfight ones I was talking about earlier, is depressing. But everyone loses games from time to time. And if you are watching this, that means you are either laughing at my voice or you genuinely want to improve. And that's the most important step to becoming a better player, because hopefully after watching this video you'll lose less and win more. And thinking about it, one loss is equivalent to 2 wins, because you lose 20, which is 40 below what you would be had you won. So even by winning 6 out of 10 rather than 5 out of 10, you raise your LP by like 50. Nonetheless, I want to leave you guys with one quote which I read when I was hard stuck in bronze in season 3, and it stuck with me ever since. 20% games are unwinnable, 20% games are won no matter how you play. It's the other 60% when you need to pull your shit together and be able to perform, as those will determine your MMR. And you might have heard this before, but from what I believe, this quote is one of the most true quotes out there. Anyhow, feel free to leave your op.gg in the comments down below, and I'll try to personally help by seeing what you can improve to become a better player. Or you can just add me on EUW on the name Chocolate Hammer, which will appear on your screen right now, and we can duo a game or two. For now, this is it. Hope you liked the video, and make sure to keep me updated on what to improve and what content to put up on my channel, and whether or not my tricks helped you climb. Also, if you found it helpful, share this video with your mates so you can climb together. And as always, make sure to subscribe for more content.